Salut and welcome to a downward facing dog tutorial. Billy is also running around, so he might be showing us his downward facing dog. I want to show you down dog from different kinds of perspectives. So downward facing dog is an arm balance, it's a partial inversion, and it's a restorative pose. Maybe you're thinking, what? Down dog is definitely not a restorative pose. I'll tell you how you can use it as a restorative pose to come down and relax during your practice and take a breath. So either use down dog to strengthen and stretch or focus on just calming your breath. I'll show you different variations to work with down dog, for example, with 2 blocks. And especially if your heels are hovering above the floor, there are things like these wedges that make it a little easier, especially in the beginning. I'll just show you these. I know you don't have these, you don't need this to practice, but I'll just show you these, that there are things to make it easier for the heels or maybe even underneath your hands. And these are especially helpful if you have wrist pain or any issues with your wrists. So let's do down dog. You might need 2 blocks. I'll show you variations with blocks, without the blocks, and let's get started. So let's look at down dog from an entering perspective. So how to get into downward facing dog with the right distance between hands and feet. So best for this is to start in a upper plank. From upper plank to move back into downward facing dog. To set up your upper plank, you bring your hands down, your knees down to the floor, spread your fingers, extend one leg after the other, and you're in upper plank. From here, you bend your knees, push your hips back to arrive in downward facing dog. One more time. From upper plank, knees bending, downward facing dog. So the most common issues in down dog is to stay here. So my back is rounding, I'm trying to extend my legs, although I lack the flexibility to do so and to bring my heels down. So that's why I'm rounding here. In order to avoid this, you want to bend your knees and push your hips back. So here I'm extending, I'm reaching out, I'm stretching from my hands up towards my hips and rolling the shoulders away from ears. So don't worry too much about bringing your heels down right away. Focus on extending the back. To make this a little easier, now you can try this with blocks underneath your hands. So even if you have blocks, if you don't have blocks, don't worry. You can use 2 stacks of books, maybe the same height as one side as the other, and then you can bring your hands down. I like to bring the edges of my hands down towards the edge of the block, so I can push into the block. And maybe you can bring your heels down towards the floor a little more easily or a little further down towards the floor. So try this variation, maybe even from here to here, maybe extending the legs. And as in forward fold, as in any stretches, we try to engage the front in order to stretch the back. So by engaging my thighs, I allow and tell my body to relax the back of my legs, hamstrings, and such. So try this with your blocks. And now as a bonus, I'm just going to show you, I don't want to sell you anything. I just want to show you these wedges. So these wedges work like this. If you have wrist pain, for example, and in downward facing dog, I would set them up here to help myself relax a little bit more in downward facing dog. And over time, of course, you want to work lower and maybe even all the way towards the floor, but maybe you start up here in your down dog. So now I want to show you down dog, the specialty in downward facing dog in the shoulders. So I'm turning towards you to show you the most common problem or issues I see in downward facing dog. So usually in class, we yoga teachers are all about shoulders away from ears. This is relevant in all other aspects except when your arms move up over your head or up towards the ceiling. Okay, so this is also the case in downward facing dog. So in order to protect the rotator cuff, the shoulder joint, we want to reach up like this. Externally rotate and reach. So we don't want to do this, and we don't want to do this, because this just tightens the neck. We want to reach and roll the shoulders away from ears. And this is what it looks like in downward facing dog. So we're here, and you don't want to be here. Now I'm kind of allowing the weight to drop to the floor, and my elbows bend, and I'm just miserable here. Instead, I want to straighten my arms, stretch myself back, and reach myself back. So I'm rolling shoulders a little bit away from ears, and at the same time reaching. Okay? So avoid this or this, but reach and roll. Good. Okay. I hope you find these tricks helpful. You can always message me if you have any questions. And I hope you can use maybe the block variation and try this and have fun practicing your sun salutations.